Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to yet another edition of Take 3. I'm Anand Narasimhan. With me, Zaka Jacob and Rahul Shivshankar. And viewers, we're going to start with two issues that cause the public a great amount of distress and ire. And somehow, somewhere, one felt that the levels of governance should have been stronger to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen. On the other hand, there is also that the wheels, once they set in motion, was the repair done in time and faster than what we have seen in the past. So there are different perspectives on this. Of course, we're talking about what happened with IndiGo and this entire crashing down of the entire operations of IndiGo for 2 whole days, flights being cancelled and lakhs of passengers being distressed. Could that have been avoided? Did the government not foresee? Where is the DGCA and all of this? There are multiple points of view. And the other one is this entire Romeo Lane Goa fiasco where we sadly lost 25 people to something which could have been boiled down to negligence. But more importantly, it's the speed with which the owners of this entire Birch Club could actually take off and get out of the country. Now that brought back things like you can shoot and scoot from our country at any point in time, and that question still looms large, or was it faster? Because things are moving very fast in that case. So Zaka, let's start with you and then Rahul.
Oh, so the IndiGo thing, obviously, look, it affected a lot more people. I mean, thankfully nobody died. But I think it's, obviously, there are levels of responsibility that need to be fixed. Clearly, the primary responsibility is that of the airline. The management of the airline, the CEO, the board, they have the primary responsibility because this was clearly an entirely foreseeable problem. I mean, this FDTL rules have been in the making for the last 2 years, and they'd been asking for extension and extension and extension. Finally, they've got another one, even after the December, deadline kicked in. So clearly, the primary responsibility is with the airline. They completely failed, and frankly, I think accountability needs to be fixed. So far, the only action that has been taken against IndiGo is that 10% extra routes have been taken away from them.
Shaving off.
Frankly, if you ask me, that's just like a rap on the knuckles. I mean, that's nothing. It's not going to cost IndiGo anything. It's frankly just they got 6% extra routes for the winter schedule. Now you've taken away 10%. I don't think it's going to matter to them at all. What will matter to them is if substantial number of routes are taken away and fines are being made to pay by the airline and heads roll. Ultimately, accountability is through the form of heads rolling. This was on the management. The management failed. They failed lakhs of customers. Yes, post facto, you can compensate them. You can give them their bags. I believe some 10,000 bags were floating around in the various airports in the first few days. But ultimately, I think the DGCA, the ministry are not entirely above board on this. Again, they cracked the whip post facto. I mean, this is what you plan for. I mean, this is an airline that prided itself in being India's most efficient, right?
Maybe even let's stay on IndiGo first, and then we'll get to the Goa issue in a bit.
Most efficient in Asia Pacific and so on and so forth. Why didn't they foresee this? And frankly, I think this was basically IndiGo just trying to arm twist the government to get them to push back the rules, and that's exactly what happened. They pushed back the rules.
Okay, Rahul, there are 2-3 parts. One is on the face of it when it happened. First thing everybody thought, oh, these pilots, they just don't decide to show up, right? You tend to go ahead and go after the low-hanging fruit, the pilots, the frontline staff, and something wrong must have happened. And then when the deep dive happens, you realize, oh my God, this could have been avoided.
Yeah, Anand, when a private company acquires the ability to bend a government or the regulators to its own will, it raises disquieting questions about monopolies,
duopolies, etc.
Duopolies, also, one hates to say this, but regulatory capture. Look, the DGCA, which comes under the Civil Aviation Ministry, is entrusted with one basic task, is to ensure that we fly safely. That's bottom line, right? My problem is that everyone is looking at this from a governance issue. IndiGo, government, governance issue. No one is looking at it for what it actually is. A massive betrayal of public safety. Today, all those jets are supposedly flying. And IndiGo by the 15th or whatever it is that they claim will be back to operational
They're
strength.
already fully operational now.
Well, I mean,
That's what they claim,
depending
yeah.
on, well, I'm not going to, let's
Yeah,
see it
no, that's
to
what they
believe
claim.
it. Every morning you get this sort of visual of certain flights that are cancelled or delayed or whatever, but let's go by what they have said, 15th. Now, what are we going back to is the question that worries me. You see, the government, the regulator said that we are most concerned with pilot fatigue, right? These new flight duration FDTL guidelines were instituted. Why? So that pilots and crew get ample time to rest so that they don't make miscalculations while flying and there are no lapses in judgment.
Yeah.
Right? You have 2 years to implement and 2 years to conform. Implement the government has, and on the other side to conform the airline has. 2 years. Everyone is sleeping at the wheel, literally. The government just does perfunctory. The DGCA is very perfunctory, just sending reminders so that, there's a phrase, CYA. That's basically what's going on. So, कहीं बाद में किसी ने कुछ पूछा, no, we sent the notification, we sent the advisory, we prodded them. And IndiGo put profit first, not passenger safety. Do you know this is the only country where airlines, and we should have a conversation about how difficult it is also to operate airlines and why there is a monopoly and so on and so forth. We're free to, but let's just go with one basic thing. Do you know this is the only country where airlines are not bound by law to refund you? You see, when you go to America, for example, or you go to UK and your flight is cancelled, it's happened with me a couple of times. I'm married to an American, I've had to travel, I've had to come back sometimes in hurricane season in July, and the eastern seaboard, everything sort of packs up, literally. So if you want to fly out to North Carolina, you have to look at that point of the time at the weather charts. And it has happened. What do? They either book you immediately onto the next flight at their own cost, whatever the differential is, or they give you vouchers, hotel stay, food. This is by law. What does this force? It forces airlines, even in a monopolistic, duopoly situation in America, to be better geared towards the traveler. And they therefore take all those steps because it's costly. Handing out coupons, cancel flights, all of that hits you hard. So you put your systems, you streamline them in a way that you're flying out on time, you're landing on time, you're making sure that you have the right pilots, the right strength, the right crew, you're more organized. Had we had that, I can guarantee you, these airlines would have been walking the straight line. After all, 3 or 4 others did. Why? Because they are operating on losses. They can't afford any of this gitch pitch. They can't afford anyone turn around and say that you're unreliable, we don't want to do business with you. So they are more conscious. Because they are really at the margins. This 70%, 60% monopoly is what is cost. And at the end of the day, you give this airline an extension. Now, at that moment, you can say that, what do we do? I mean, we are in the pocket of this airline pretty much. And all those people can't suffer from weeks after the whole economy of this country. Many people will be inconvenienced. So that's what I'm saying. I began by saying, when an airline begins to arm twist or bend the regulator to suit its ends, okay. Secondly, my biggest problem, the aviation minister gets away by suggesting that it's an IndiGo problem. The IndiGo CEO is sitting there with his hat jodoed like this. Yes, it is an IndiGo problem. No doubt about it. But sir, you are preaching when 5 fingers are pointing back at you. What about your culpability? The court has to point this out. I'll tell you, this is the first time in about 11 years that the Modi government has had to face public wrath directed at it, not political, public wrath for misgovernance. And I'm not even talking about the second aspect of it, where they have a double engine sarkar in Goa.
We'll come to Goa in a bit. We'll just move to Goa in a bit. But here are some things which we need to put out there. The fact is that this entire implementation of the FDTL had to happen in 2 phases. Out of the 22 new regulations, 15 were put in place in July and remaining 7 came into effect from the 1st of November 2025, and every airline is not the same. Some airlines operate different aircraft, they operate different segments, they operate different routes, so they all came with a certain amount of leeway and conditions saying that we need these allowances. All of this goes to the DGCA, not the Ministry of Civil Aviation. So it's the DGCA which is supposed to do this. The DGCA currently is 500 people short.
Yeah.
The DGCA currently is 500 people short. The other thing is, between the 1st of November till the 1st of December, for 30 days, IndiGo operated and it scaled up, like Zaka just said, scaled up its winter operations by 6% at a time when they are at least 65 pilots short. Now, all of this comes out later on. Yeah. And the other thing is, Zaka, even before we moved up to this development on that day, the previous 3-4 days, it was slowly building up because flights were getting cancelled, pilots were not turning up, and this issue was coming. Yet, there was no red flag raised by DGCA. The DGCA was informed that they are increasing their operations. The DGCA knew very well that they are literally flouting with the rules. This entire rest period, operating in the night, when you get out of the airport, till the time you get out of the hotel, I'll count your 10 hours like that. All of this has been going on for a while. So they've been playing with the the rules, and a budget airline is charging more than full service airlines. All of this is happening right under the very nose of the DGCA. And where is the entire IndiGo board of directors? Where is the chairman of IndiGo? Where are these people? Did they not know what they're doing?
In fact, I think Money Control has done a story where they've looked at all the previous board meetings in the last year plus, and nowhere are these FDTL rules mentioned anywhere in the minutes of the board. The board meets periodically. I think it meets every quarter. Look, one thing IndiGo still has not explained fully is these new rules were in effect from 1st of November. The whole crisis really blows up and stuff hits the ceiling from the 2nd of December. How did you work out these rules and operate by these rules for an entire month, and then in the first week of December, everything blows up? I think IndiGo needs to come clean on that. Look, one other thing that happened. So, again, what that points to is essentially that if you could run an entire month of your rostering, pilots, routes, everything with the existing setup of pilots, relatively smoothly. I mean, there must have been minor disruptions, but not the kind that we saw in the first week of December. Then what happened in that interchange between November and December for things to go kaput? So one thing that people are talking about is I think the 3rd week or the last week of November, there were some issues with the A320 engines, a particular variant of the A320. And then I think Mr. Elbers, the CEO, put out a statement saying we're doing a reboot of our systems. Now, this is a technical thing. And after which they also put out a statement saying we've done the reboot, everything is fine. A few days after that is when this whole thing, really comes apart at the seams. So the mistake that you have done, which is that there was some systemic problem in your technical systems, you've decided to do the reboot. You've said the reboot is fine. We're back to operational efficiencies and so on. And then this whole thing happens. So then don't blame the FTTL rules, right? You've already implemented it for a month. You had a problem with the A320 systems, and then you've gone ahead with the reboot, and you've changed your systems. You've given a go-ahead that, yes, systems are now fine, all systems functioning. And then a few days after that, this whole thing happened. So clearly, IndiGo messed up in a major way. The DGCA messed up in a major way. And frankly, I think heads need to roll. I keep saying this. Heads need to roll. Accountability
at these two levels.
Can I say another point?
Yeah.
You see, both the DGCA, in fact, the DGCA was warned by a parliamentary panel in August.
Yeah.
We put out that report.
Correct.
Right. You know what the warnings were? If you look down the list, around the second or second last is the one that you are talking about, that you're understaffed, my dear friends. That yes, there are going to be new flights. These FDTL rules will kick in. You're going to be understaffed. In fact, you're also going to be understaffed in ATC. See, that's why I keep coming back to the passenger safety angle. We are being treated badly, sir. We are being taken for granted, sir. And I am fed up of people pointing fingers elsewhere and not taking responsibility.
No, I totally agree. See,
this aviation minister, the DGCA, and the CEO, Mr. Elbers of IndiGo. Look, I know there are channels out there in their media pieces who are going to give this guy, the civil aviation minister and others, a great platform. Right. They won't ask that one question, will you resign, sir? Will you resign?
Yeah. So
will you resign?
Now here's
will
my
you resign?
here's my
That's
point.
fundamentally the issue.
Here's my point.
What happens?
Here's my point. You've got to ask this question to those people who were in the know and did nothing. Okay. Now, if we look at this layer very carefully, the last is the civil aviation minister. In between, the most important and critical is the DGCA and the person in charge of IndiGo and monitoring IndiGo. And then, of course, IndiGo, its board of directors, chairman, and the CEO, who knew exactly what's happening. See, IndiGo has the worst pilot to plane ratio in India, right? And it is among the lowest across the world also. A budget airline is operating at higher rates of full service and it's being allowed to do so. Why is it being allowed to do so? So it's being allowed, right? It's being allowed. So this is the problem in the system where things are allowed to go as long as there is no mishap.
Anand,
And then you come to when the raita, कहता है ना रायता फैल जाता है उसके बाद उसको समेटने के लिए सब आ जाते हैं so oh we cut it. All right.
You know,
the civil
Anand,
aviation minister must have got it in 48 hours. But why did you allow it to happen is a fair question to ask.
There is an on-time operation.
Yeah.
You know, chart. How many flights are taking off on time? IndiGo is one of those, and you know, bless IndiGo for that. They used to take off on time. They had a great punctuality sort of ratio, right, to number of takeoffs. That had begun to slip noticeably by end October, and in November they had really started coming down to about 30-40%, right? The DGCA knew all of this, but it never asked the question, why is it happening?
Correct.
Have you not complied? And what was it? 160 crews were required. That is first officer and pilots. Just 160
No, there's another thing. There's another thing. See,
No, they don't want to hire, right? Because they don't want to pay.
Yeah.
It boils down to
and
that.
this is the last quarter. See, look at how business works. It's the last quarter. Are you going to hire 65 pilots and add additional cost to your operations if you're going to increase your operations, or manage for this last quarter and then look at first quarter next year to add on these people and then manage somehow? Did they think that they'll be able to try and get the government to blink and say till February I'll give you leeway and then ask, अरे 10th February हो गया सर, एक 10 दिन और दे दो, hiring 1st March से शुरू कर देते हैं या 31st March से शुरू कर देते हैं. This is a standard tactic. My larger question is that in our country, the authorities also look the other way till the time there is a mishap.